She said, I wanted the one that says thinking. And I said, that's the one I call thinking. And she had mixed it up with another painting. She made the mistake.
Yeah.
But she said, why did you call it thinking? I said, because I couldn't spell contemplating. we had a good laugh about that.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Hey, y'all, welcome to another Something in the Water podcast. It's old Uncle Dave and, never mind. It's me and James Cocke, and that's it. But it ought to be enough. Right?
I hope so.
How you doing?
I can't do no better.
Well, if you was any better, you'd be that feller named Justin Mercer.
That's right. Young, handsome, and fit, and smart.
Boy, I remember when I was young and fit.
And then I wake up.
Oh, let me get my mic right. Yeah, well, y'all seen James on here before, and we always glad to have him. And I guess some of y'all might not have heard the story before, but me and James actually lived side by side for many years, off and on, because my family moved around and his family moved around, but we always were like drawn back to that magic dog hill. That's where we spent most of our time.
Mount Pleasant Road, Waycross, Georgia.
Yeah, boy, we had so many memories that stem from that little dirt road, just outside of the city limits of Waycross, and I believe the canal might have been the city limit. Did you ever hear that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but I know that's about where it was. I couldn't argue one way or another.
A little. I guess it was sewage canal, part of the...
it was a creek running to the Satilla River.
That was?
Yeah, it's just a feeder system.
Okay. Well, the city of Waycross itself had a lot of a water system that ran. You can look at an old city map and you can see where the little, they call them water canals, they were sewage, the sewage flow.
Right.
And you'd see them angling all through the city, and then one would stop and another one would pick up over here.
Well, we ain't calling that one. I ain't having that.
We always called it the canal.
That's it. And I actually, I'm over here today. Dave invited me to show some of my artwork and talk about what happened when I went blind. And but I do have a painting of the canal.
All right.
And
well, we're gonna get into all of that. We got plenty of time.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're gonna get into. He's wanting to make sure that he gets his plug in right away.
No, I understand the plan. Oh my goodness.
Oh Lord! But yeah, we did. We was youngins, and then we were older, and then we were growner. And we didn't leave for a long time, leave the old dog hill, but eventually, by and by, different reasons pulled us away. And you left to go sell chips, right, in Beaufort?
Well, it's a long story.
Well, I've just kind of hit on it real quick.
Yeah,
but you did leave.
That's the reason I left Waycross.
To take a cookie route or a chip route?
Chip route. became a manager of a branch, and it was Hilton Head
Yeah.
and Beaufort, and Hilton Head was the richest of the rich, and Beaufort was the poorest of the poor. They actually started the welfare system in Beaufort, South Carolina, and I'd be in a chip truck and look behind me, and there'd be a Rolls Royce and an old raggedy pickup.
Because and the moral of the story is rich or poor, everybody likes chips.
There you go,
What was that, Tom's?
Tom's
Tom's?
potato
Potato
chip.
chips.
Yep.
But so that's when you left Dog Hill, and I don't guess you ever went back after that, right?
Nope, that was it.
Yeah.
I thought I was coming back when I give up the ghost of that job in Beaufort. I said I'm coming back home, and I was locking the door at the warehouse that I worked at, and Diane was out there. We were going to go and talk about it at lunch, and the phone rang, and I thought, screw this, I ain't answering that phone. I'm fed up with this company, and I said, no, I'm company man. I'll go in there and answer it. And it was a buddy of mine that I used to know in Waycross as a vendor, and he was living down in Florida, and he says, hey, James, and I hadn't heard from him about 2 years. He said, hey, James, we got an opening. Were you interested in the job in Valdosta?
Just like that.
I thought, Lord, is that an answer? And so,
That's how the Lord works. One door closes, another one opens.
it happened then.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was immediate.
Yep. So in just a couple of weeks, I was in Valdosta, and that's where I've been ever since. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed living in Waycross. I coached ball over here, coached Special Olympics. I went to Beaufort and coached a little bit over there, and then Valdosta coached. So I just always enjoyed wherever I was at. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of hobbies. And raised good boys.
Fishing, not so much hunting, but fishing.
Well, I taught my boys how to hunt, and 2 of them are avid hunters, and I don't get in it. They do their thing.
Yeah.
But
growing up on Dog Hill, James's yard was the come together place. That's where we all had a lot of firsts in that house and backyard. The backyard was beautiful. It was shaded where it needed to be. And then at the very back end of it, his granddaddy and grandmother lived in that house. And years before we were born, his granddaddy had a bull in a pasture in the back, a big old open square, big old rectangle back there, ideal for a football field. And so the bull died, and we came around, and we made use of, and we always called it the pasture.
absolutely.
And so, meet me at the pasture. And it was great. I mean, we grew up to the left of James's house. There was a fence row in between, azaleas, and white picket fence separating our yard from his. And we'd get to the point where we couldn't even hardly climb over that picket fence. We were so little, but as we grew, get to the point where we'd vault over it to visit.
If you was careful, you would make it.
The other good thing about James's house is that, well, like I say, his grandparents lived there, and they were pretty old when we were, early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. They was already getting on up there. And his granddaddy, Lots, was a big man. He was a tall Southern gentleman, and he had that old watermelon accent. Watermelon, the old, I guess they called it a plantation accent from the South.
He came off of a plantation in Summerville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And now it's a richy area, I think, called the Ponds, Ponds. It's like a gated community, and the family sold that. But I hear all the stories when I was little about him living there.
Mm-hmm.
But
he was something else, though. My memories of him is he was a very gentle giant. He had quit smoking, so he'd walk around always with a pack of Dentyne. He'd pop that Dentyne in his mouth and sit there and talk with you. And he passed in early 60s, mid 60s.
I'm going to say 62.
62, right there.
Or 64, somewhere along in there.
And that left James. He had an older brother, Wayne, who had gone to Vietnam and had moved on out. And so that left James and his mother, Edie, who was a nurse, and his grandmother, Susie Lotz. And as big as much of a giant as his granddaddy was, well, his granny was very diminutive. And we all grew up calling them what he called them. It was Big Granny and Little Granny. And so it was Little Granny, your mama, and you there. And so that there was less stress and less strictness at James's house. There was no father figures going on around there. James lost his daddy when he was very young. And that's where we all gravitated from the early 60s until we grew on up and out. But besides the sports, we had, we'd go to the movies, we'd come back to the house and act out the movie in your backyard.
We wrote songs, we wrote plays, we wrote
books.
We did everything. I wish I could find some of that old stuff.
Good Lord, I do too.
We had a board game that Becky Herron actually came up with it, her and Ray, and we played that game. It was a hippie game, but that was when we was a little bit older in high school, and I still I did a painting of it. It's, I mean, it's just colorful. I think it's, like just old hippie game.
Kind of like Monopoly for Risk or whatever. It was
a dice game and had cards and it was fun as crap. We always had a big time playing it.
Yeah.
But so we did it growing up from little fellers right on up. And
well, we grew up on. We all had an ear for music. We loved music. We loved records, and James would buy records. We'd have records. Greg Griffin, our neighbor, moved in about 1963 to Dog Hill, lived right across the street from James. And then Billy Ray Heron lived close enough to call it our end. And the older we got, the more we became tighter knit group of kind of like a neighborhood gang, And we'd listen to our records in your bedroom, which was a long, like a what do they call them, sunroom kind of thing, or a southern room or something like that. It was just a long thing, the width of the house.
It was actually a back porch,
Originally, yeah.
and then it was
I closed in.
with old knotty pine.
There's wood all over the place. And we'd sprawl out on the floor listening to Pat Boone singing Moody River. And
I'm glad you got a good memory.
that old song, Meet Me at Midnight, Mary. This was early 60s.
I do
classics.
remember that.
Yeah.
All them old songs. My little granny she was getting to where she couldn't deal with anything. So my aunt hired a maid for her twice a week and come in and help clean and do a little cooking. And the maids had two of them, and they both influenced. One of them was Mary Taylor, whose husband, Terry Taylor, played in a band at the VFW.
Mm-hmm.
He played drums. And but Mary always, and the other one,
I can't remember the other one.
my memories. I wrote about it. I wrote actually a book about it, and but they would tell me what 45s to pick up. Granny give me a little spending money, and so Sam Cooke was one of the first ones I ever heard. And
which you in turn, you were always influencing us too.
Well, I tried hard.
Because we wound up with Sam Cooke 45s.
There you go. Mm-hmm. There you go. Probably wound up with mine. Tick, your brother Tick was pretty slick, and now he's a preacher. That don't tell it all.
If that don't beat all. But yeah, it was a glorious time. Glorious time. The decade of the 60s was kind of where we hit our stride.
But times have slipped on.
Mm-hmm.
Father Time waits for nobody.
We were very competitive too. Sports, it was just it was just the best place to grow up. It was.
Absolutely.
I'm sure everybody can probably say that about their own neighborhood, but I just feel like ours was tighter and lasted longer.
I'll say this. If somebody out there lives in a better neighborhood than this and they're our age, I'm sorry, but you're probably too late to write a book about it because you're too old. But if something strikes your fancy, if you're going to do something, you better do it now because your memory's not getting any better. So I'll say this. If you're going to write something, do something, do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
You ever heard that, Dave?
Nike. Well, speaking of which, and we'll get into what we've gone through later, but right about 2015, James picked up a pen and said, I'm going to write a book and illustrate it. And it was this right here. Papa's dream.
Yep. That's when I had two eyes. I can't say they was two good eyes, but actually what had happened was 6 years earlier than that, I was selling air conditioners in Valdosta, and I'd go to somebody's house on such and such street, and I'd have their name and address in there. When I'd leave or on the way there, I'd think of a funny story or something that come from the old days, and I would make a one-line sentence like, the snake fell out the car, this or that happened. And then that night I would write on a yellow legal pad. And after 6 years of doing that, that's where I messed up. My mind couldn't get it back in chronological order. and a dean of English at Valdosta State College, make a long story short, he edited it for me. And it took him about a year and a half.
This?
Yes, because he was going to do it on his own, on his own time. And he told me, he said, James, I'd take a break. And I think, what's James up to now? And he'd go in there and edit some more. And after we got it published, I gave him a copy, and he takes it to his classes when he was teaching and show his class, this is how you do a memoirs. And he explained to them how I did
The Papa's Dream?
No, that's
okay.
But
I was
why?
fixing to say it took him that long to edit this.
No, that's funny. Because what happened was it took like a year and a half. So during that year and a half, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to write a little children's book. And
Oh, okay. So you started Cocktails first.
yeah,
I got you.
it was like 8 years
I got
in the
you.
making. So I did the little
Children's book.
children's book,
In
but
the
I
meantime,
never could get it to pop. And but I did the best I could. And it's one of my friends, Cindy Kovac, a retired school teacher. I sent her my little stuff, and she said that she'd be glad to look at it. And she kind of edited it down. She said, "You've got enough here to do 3 books." So everything wound up in one book. And
nice.
so
It's good. I mean, and the illustrations are by James as well, and that'll lead into another part of our podcast here in just a minute, the art portion. But Papa's Dream was written for my children and grandchildren, Thomas and Clara Jane, and for my future grandchildren and nieces, who I don't know who they are yet, and nephews. I don't know what their names are yet because they're in the future. It was written for all children, for all time. And it's called Papa's Dream, and you done a really good job illustrating it.
well, you know how you open up things now. Everybody's got everything just pops out at you color, and I just not into that video world, and high tech world. But your cousin Beth Thrift, she was helping me with another one. I had another story, and she put a lot of artwork in there, and then she got things that she couldn't handle, and so it just left, but unfinished. So it'll just never happen. But she showed me what an artist is. She's good.
Yeah, Beth has the touch.
Yep.
But this is kind of like in the back, the books have a little short bio of the author. It says, James has always enjoyed working with children, volunteering in Special Olympics. For over 20 years, he's been a volunteer Little League football coach. And his hobbies are fishing, and most favorite hobby of all is retiring. Being retired has allowed him to write this book for his grandchildren. And when he retired, he lost vision of one eye and has struggled and persevered to write despite that. And so...
Well, that's what brings
This
me.
is not the first book. The first book that he started was this one, his Memoirs of a Redneck Hippie, called Cocktails. And while this one was taking a while to be edited, he ended up writing the children's book. But this one is another, is a horse of a different color.
What is that one?
Cocktails.
I'll say this. If you showed them the picture of the cover, it's the Satilla River. And I think that's the prettiest book in America because I love that river so much. But the book itself, probably not fit for human consumption.
It's got a warning on the back. It said this book contains content that may be offensive to some people. That's just about everything nowadays.
Well, this is
That is
showing
pretty.
up.
That's a pretty. Where is that at?
What's that?
That cover shot. Photograph.
but
Does it say exactly? Probably Brantley County.
who took that picture?
Know where it was.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly where it was. It's
Where was it?
Hacklebarney.
Hacklebarney.
And it was, oh, good gosh. His name's in there. He's passed.
Roger Fowler.
Old Roger's passed away.
Yeah.
I called my buddy Willie down in Nahunta. He lives down in Atkinson. Fort Mudge is actually,
Mudge?
yeah. No, that's on the swamp side. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's on
Fort McIntosh.
Yeah.
And I said, Willie, I need some pictures of your backyard right there on the sandbar and all that. And he couldn't do it. He just wasn't technical enough to figure out how to do it and all that. So I said, hey, Roger, because I saw him putting a bunch of stuff on there. I said, could you put some pictures on there? And I'm talking about within 2 minutes, I had 6 pictures to choose from. And that's the one I chose. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty up and down the river.
So with the length of time it took to get this book written and edited and everything, it took so long that the first book you had published ended up being the children's book in 2015. Then this one came out in 2016.
That's right.
And it's stories about your life, basically, and pictures, some good pictures in here of your mama, Big Granny, our house, your house. Well, I call it our house. On Dog Hill there with the white picket fence.
I know if somebody's wanting to read a book, I'll say this, it doesn't have any big words because one of my sons was coming in and out of the house, and I was sitting at the computer, and I said, how do you spell Appalachian or, whatever big word that come up? And he said, have you tried spell check? And I thought, what's spell check? And I looked on the computer, and I had written like 300,000 words. I was finishing the book. And I find out about spell check. So what I did when I'd come to a big word, I just changed the whole sentence to a simpler. Mm-hmm. So there's no big words in there. That's my only plug about that. But there's some bad ones in there. So I don't wish it on.
Dude, I love these, and a lot of the stories in here, or many of them, are about us, the same gang that I was talking about that grew up together over there. But as we grew older, we got into some things.
Well, it got wild and woolier when we went to college and their own.
There's some good photos in that too. I love that one of you and my brother Gary and Ray sitting there on a sandbar camping out in the middle of winter in toboggan caps, but Tom Selleck mustaches and 70s cigarettes hanging out your mouth, and ain't no telling what was going on inside your head.
That preacher, that little leader, he was our leader. Got us in all kind of trouble.
And all about your children, stories, all your stories. So James was the first writer to come off Dog Hill, and we sat in the back bedroom when we was 10 and tried to write books.
Let me tell you this. One lady told me in Valdosta, she was a retired English professor. She said, I'll edit your book and publish it. $500 for one, $500 the other, $1,000. I said, nope. She said, why not? I said, I can't afford it. I was on hard times. Mm-hmm. And she says, okay, I'll edit it in my sleep and I'll publish it for $500. I said, oh, right. So she actually helped me a lot. she would say, "Where's your description? Why didn't you do this?" And readers won't know this. And until she got into my college years, and it was like, oh, hell, everything changed, her attitude. And that's when we run into the old drugs scene, 1970. So anyway, and she said, "James, I lost a sister to heroin and another one to crack. And this lady's up in her 80s then."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, listen, I'm not trying to glorify all that because I never done all that."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "But just don't give up on me. Let's keep going." And my life doesn't stay stuck there. And she said, okay. So after a while, she just, her emails got meaner and meaner. And she said, "Look, James, if you was smart, you would walk away." And I said, "Wait a minute. I never said I was smart." And I never said I was a writer. I just wanted to tell my story. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, she did some more work for me, and I get a check in the mail for $500. She fired my tail and
Sent your money back.
And sent my money back. And then 2 weeks later, in the Valdosta Daily Times, there was an article because she was a avid writer.
Yeah.
And there was an article in the paper, and it says, "Everyone has a story to tell. Everybody needs to write a memoir." And I thought, yeah, everybody but James. I mean, that's the truth. I don't know what she was thinking, but that's a true story.
Yeah. Well, it is a good book. The names were changed to protect the guilty.
I put some stuff in there that I shouldn't have. But the other thing about it is now, when somebody asks me about so and so in the book, I can't remember their real name from their other name.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the way it is. So if I tell a story about one of the stories, I might use the real name or the wrong name.
So moving along now, so you by 2016 you had 2 published books. By this time you had run into another Valdosta writer who had had a publishing company more or less fall in his lap.
One of his friends passed away that owned the company, and he took it over. And
Mike Orenduff was his name. And the
super guy.
And the publishing company that he took over is called Achenbachen and Kent. It's a legitimate publishing country. These are fine quality books. And after you got your foot wet, you said, "I want more."
I wanted more.
And what the next book that came out was called Margaret B. Long, Jewel of Jacksonville. And
she was actually a cousin, but she was older than us, so we called her Aunt Margie. She would always come to Dog Hill for festive occasions. She was a home economics supervisor in Jacksonville during World War II, and actually for 40 years, she started America's first test kitchen. Now, if there was ever a movie going to be made, they'd need to make one of her because she was living in a man's world trying to make it happen. And like I said, she started America's first test kitchen because food was being rationed during the war. And so she started a daily column called "What's Cooking," and the
Florida Times Union.
Yep, and she would start out by talking about the war effort in one of her recipes, and then it would go into a recipe using material ingredients that they had on hand, and all her helpers. She called them her poison squad. And they helped her do this column for years and years. And and she started other programs that help the people with low incomes and all kind of different things in Jacksonville. But there again, my vision was so bad I couldn't do a good job editing the book, and somebody that knows what they're doing could take it and do something better with it.
Basically, it edited itself because all the content here is based on her articles, right?
Well, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to try to get somebody's money for nothing, I don't know if it's worth the money, but
this is a historical document of Jacksonville right here.
But I did have a lot of her material I inherited, and I donated it to Florida State, the state of Florida Archives, whatever. I can't tell you the name of where it's at, but they went through and did everything to it to preserve everything, and they have it. The only thing I have much of hers is I got her diploma from Florida State when she graduated. I'm going to say in 1933, somewhere along in there. It's Florida State College of Women. So I like to rag my Seminole fans about that. They went to a woman's college. But
so this picture of the lots is right here is Big Granny. That little boy right there.
He's 11 years old. He's the little tall, skinny one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good Lord.
But
how about that? That's pretty awesome.
Well, I'm glad you like it, Dave. I'll have to get you a copy.
I've got copies of these. I've already got copies. So after the Margaret B. Long book, you wanted to do another one and came up with Cocke Trails.
And I wanted it to be about when I left Waycross, I said, I'm going to miss my friends and the Satilla River. The Satilla River I always thought was the prettiest thing on earth. And anyway, I just couldn't do it justice. And it's got a map. If you get a magnifying glass.
Oh, yeah.
If you get a map, you can see what the river looked like 50 years ago. 54, 55 years ago now, whatever, how many years. But
from Waycross to Woodbine.
Yep. And I love the map, and that's what I wanted to feature. But then the map was so small, what I did, I took the original map and down to Office Max in Valdosta and printed out. Every time somebody bought a book, I'd spend $3 and send it with that. Oops. And so I tried to make up to it for everybody. But the cover picture on the back of that's our Dog Hill group. Is it the front or the back?
It's the front. Yeah,
okay,
this is a beautiful picture that I first saw it probably 10 years ago. I didn't know it existed, but my God, it's like Our Gang or whatever they called him. What was them little old movies about?
Our Gang.
The Cats and Jammer Kids or something. We stripped down. This is how we ran back in. I ain't but about 3 or 4 in this picture. Wanda, or my cousin Wanda, is back on it's like one of those old styles that went over the fence. Got 3 steps up this side, then you step over and 3 steps down. There was one of those.
You don't see them anymore.
On the back between our property, between our yard and y'all's yard. And Wanda, my cousin Wanda, looks like she's standing on the top step, and your brother Wayne, who was the oldest of everybody, he looks to be about 9 or so. And he's standing probably down on the other side there. He's still Wanda, she's probably 3. or 4. She's shirtless and it looks like pantsless, but it's probably one of those old 1950s little girls romper things, kind of like a bathing suit and a pair of shorts.
Can the camera get a good picture of that? Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is, right there. Look at that. That's me in the middle on the front. That's James winking to the right of me, and there's Gary, otherwise known as Tick. To my left, he's fully pantsed. I'm short. James is short pants. James is shoed. I'm barefoot as can be, and we're all shirtless except for Wayne.
Yep,
My God, that was it. That was the beauty and the feel of living on Dog Hill right there. We're happy as can be.
That's right. That's right.
Frowning and winking and looking into the sun because they always made you stand and look at the sun to take a picture. What a great life. So after James writes, and what's the diagnosis of your...
My eyeballs?
Yeah.
Well, what had happened, I had a botched surgery on this eye trying to save. And on this eye, it was getting worse and worse. And glaucoma usually is a peripheral vision. It like the blinders on a horse. You lose all that. And
peripheral.
There you go. It's bad to be 72. But
that's what it is, that round the edge.
Yeah. But what happened was mine was around the edge and some in the middle. So I have to look around a lot of stuff when I'm reading. Hard to read. And but I went to the Jacksonville Jaguars team eye doctor in St. Augustine. Lord knows I can't remember his name. Mm-hmm. But he told me, he said, James, if you'd have come to me earlier, I could have saved a lot of your sight. But it was just too late. He said, I can't go back and reverse nothing. But he said, maybe, but my diabetes is kicking my butt, so I have to watch what I eat and all that. And you can't tell it. It looks like I'm watching what I'm eating, but instead of watch what I eat. But the truth is, maybe I'll be able to see this see as much as I can as long as I live. And because people say, James, how can you paint if you can't see? Well, I take a picture of something, or if it's in my mind, I just do it from my mind. But I take a picture of, say, the Paul's TV of an image, and then I'll send it to my photos, and then I'll get it on my screen, and I'll blow it up, and I hold it here, and I paint here, and I get paint all over me. That's the bottom line. And it don't, with one eye, you have a depth perception problem. And if I do a line here and I want to come back on top of that line, I might do a line a half inch over. And if that's the case, I just have to start all over, do another background. But so sometimes I'll do something and I'll just stop. I'll say, well, that's it. That's a wrap, as they say in the movies.
You remember the first painting?
Honestly,
did you
I don't.
just wake up one day and say, I've got a new idea?
Oh, well, actually, I know about what it is. Every morning when I wake up, and this has been going on for years and years, when I wake up, I see a vision, and they're abstract little lines. And since my walls are beige and those images are in black, they're the same every morning. I can shut my eyes and see them. And they stay with me about 30 minutes to an hour, depending, I guess, on how much sleep I've had. So I told Diane, I said, get me some paints. And so I want to see if I could do those abstract images. And when I did those, I said, hey, that canvas don't know I'm blind. So I started scribbling and doodling. But my first ever so many, and then I started putting color to them. And then I just kind of became a painting fool. And
Did you have colors in them actually, or did you just add the colors to make it different?
I added the colors to make them different. But when I would wake up in the middle of the night to have to go to the restroom or something, I'd open my eyes, and even though the room's dark, my eyes would flash. They're night flashes, and they're just like boom, and they're gone. And so I said, I'll start trying to do them. And
Were they colors?
oh, good gosh, they was vivid, brilliant colors. And so a lot of my paintings are like that. And
So when you was initially having that before you started painting, though, you'd sit there and try to describe them to Diane or Luke or somebody like that?
not really.
Would they say, well, what are you seeing exactly?
No, nobody give a crap. The thing about it is, I go to the doctor and I tell him, and he said, "Oh, that's flashing." And it started out, I'd see them at night when I was driving, and I was going to Statenville one time, and I saw this lightning over on the left, and I could just see it lightning all the way to Statenville. When I turned around and come back, it was on the right. In other words, it was whatever eye. I'm sorry, I didn't tell that right.
No,
but it changed sides. It wasn't in the same place. So, and then like a day or two after that, I was sitting at a VSU men's tennis tournament, and I was bright sunny day, 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was watching them, and I saw this flashing going on, like lightning's flashing. And so I said, something ain't right here. And that's when I first went to the doctor and first found out that I had a retina that was detaching. And it was just on from there. I've seen 10 different doctors. But I'm not complaining because I'm not in a lot of pain. And I can do what I do. It beats the heck out of just watching a blank TV and listening to music all day long. It gives me something to do. And so I've enjoyed doing it. And if somebody else can see some good out of it, thank you, Lord.
What you've done is documented what glaucoma patients everywhere. You've come up with the physical output of what your eyes are seeing, whereas nobody else can know what you're talking. Even the doctors, you know.
And then I drew a turtle, and I put that glaucoma images on him. And then one day I was reading a story on the internet about a tortoise that was the oldest living mammal on Earth, and he was 190-something years old. And I looked at it, and I got my magnifying, and I got readers that are 6.0 instead of 2.0. I looked at that thing, and he's got my glaucoma images on his back. So I said, that dirty dog, he stole my images. And so I started putting them on turtles and giraffes and butterflies and just owls and anything I can think of. But
it's pretty daggum. It's a feel good story, even though you might not feel so good.
That's right. Hey, I'm making the best of it.
That's the moral right there. And you've been written about, and you've been interviewed, newspaper articles, magazine articles, and radio shows, and podcasts.
Yep, and television too. WFSU in Tallahassee did the radio, and they sent me to I'm trying to get my foot undone here. I might not can do it. There you go. Sorry. But then they sent me over to the television, and the television people came up from Tallahassee, and therefore I've had some publicity, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, now you've got a website too.
There you go. It's under construction,
Okay.
and
What's it going to be?
it's blind. My last name is Cocke, Cocke, art
Blind Cock Art. All
dot
one
com.
word. Blindcockart.com. Cock
All-
with an E.
Yep. And so, and one of my paintings I brought here today was the little logo that I came up with the rooster with the patch on his eye.
Is that it?
That could be it. That's him.
Yeah.
I can't hardly see it, but
Well, I see the name on the back. Blind Cock Art 2. Roman numeral 2.
in other words, there's another one somewhere at my house. It's funny. I lose them. I try to keep them in some kind of order, a Dewey Decimal System.
How many you reckon you got
I
around house now?
I keep a count on them, and I keep them on the computer too. I got over 600, and
And
I
that's
really I don't know how I did it. I just got on a whirlwind thing. If I sold my whole collection today and had to start over, there might be 20 paintings in the new one. I couldn't do what I did.
How long is this over? How long a period of time was this?
Less than 3 years. Father's Day,
Dang, you've been busy.
I've been getting it, and
Yeah,
then
this has got a number on it, 560.
then I got when I run out of money to get the canvases and the paints, I just get copy paper and go to sketching. I've got 200 or 300, 400 sketches.
I'm going to go through what you brought. Brought a good many here.
I just went through and grabbed some stuff off the wall.
We'll kind of look at the diversity of what you throw out there. This one is called, this number 363, called Sam's Barbecue.
He was a friend of mine when I moved to Valdosta. He was a bag boy in Piggly Wiggly in Quitman, Georgia. And then he decided one day to open up a barbecue stand in Valdosta. And he's been there ever since, and the best barbecue in the world. And he's just a good friend. And it just looked like a bluesy place. It's a takeout place. Mm-hmm. I wish they had a place to sit down bigger. But
all right, now this one is an iconic figure from the back, painted on May 30th. Well, just the other day. This is a very recent one. It's number 616. Simply called, and I like this about your paintings. You just put the, on a lot of them, you'll put the title of the painting on the front.
And what does it say?
Willie.
Let me see it. Oh, I saw this. This was just the other day.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I like to do those like that, silhouettes. Mm-hmm. But the other night they had Willie's 90th birthday.
I watched that.
Reviewed.
I did.
And I just paused it, took a picture of it. Mm-hmm. And the telltale pigtails. Yep, I tried.
And there's the headstock of Trigger, the old beat up guitar with a hole in it. Here's a story about that now. Waycross, Georgia is in southeast Georgia. It's 9 miles from the next town of Blackshear. Many years ago in Blackshear, a fellow by the name of Shot Jackson lived there. This is Pierce County, Georgia, Blackshear. And Shot Jackson went on to Nashville. His biggest claim to fame was that he and Buddy Emmons designed and built one of the first marketed steel guitars in the world, and it was called SHO for Shot and BUD for Buddy, Showbud. It's a Showbud steel guitar, and that thing caught on, man. All the steel guitar players around the world was buying them because they were that good. Shot Jackson also gave Willie Nelson the guitar that Willie has beat up through the years. That was a gift from Shot Jackson.
That's cool.
I think Willie might have named it. I don't know if Shot had already named it, but Willie named that guitar Trigger, which was the name of the horse, Roy Rogers' horse, also. And both of them been rode hard and put up wet. All right, this next one is number 246, called The Wait a Minute Vine.
There you go. I grabbed that off the wall coming out the door. And
well, there's a story behind that one.
I worried Dave into to writing the song about it. And the best way I can tell you is, Dave, you tell them where to find it to hear the song. And then I did the...
you can probably find it on there under my YouTube. I reckon it's Uncle Dave Griffin YouTube channel. But anyhow. Yeah, I released it on there. YouTube. Was it on one of your records? No, it was just. I did it during COVID isolation. I was doing this thing called the Midnight Ramble, and I did maybe 6 or 7 of them, and this was one of them. Now, James had been on me. That might be it right there. I'll tell the story right here. Go ahead.
Welcome to the Midnight Isolation Ramble, night number 5. I'm Uncle Dave Griffin, and hope everybody out there is doing as well as they can. I've noticed that a lot of folks are taking this time and using it wisely, work around the house, get odd jobs done, plant gardens and such. Me, myself, I'm finding a lot more time on my hands and writing some songs. A buddy of mine that lives over in Valdosta, me and him were next door neighbors growing up back in the day here on Dog Hill in Waycross. James Cocke is his name, Cocke. Now, James has been after me to write a song for quite a while now about the Wait a Minute Vine. And I've been putting him off until tonight. I talked to him on the phone this afternoon, and he reminded me to get back to it. And so I did a little research on it, found out what it was, and here's what we come up with. Parts and even over in South Asia, there's a plant with pretty little flowers and purple berries and thorns. It grows thick as the days get longer and the sun begins to shine. If you get caught in it, you holler, wait a minute. That's why they call it the Wait a Minute Vine. Me and my grandpappy walking through the woods one day, told me about this unkind vine. Said, son, you better stay away. Branches wrap around you, teeth just like a line. Boy, you can't be too careful around that wait a minute vine. When I was a young man, old enough to tote a gun, sent me off to Vietnam. Said, son, you better fight, not run. It wasn't the mud and the blood and the heat, it wasn't the enemy line. The thing that brought me to my knees, that wait a minute vine. Some folks that I saw her. Prettiest thing I know. Big blue eyes, she smiled at me. Says, son, you better move real slow. Then she wrapped herself around me. Kisses taste like wine. I heard the words of my grandpappy and wait a minute, fine. Some folks say it's just like love. Some say love is blind. Lord have mercy, I done got called by the wait a minute, fine. Lord have mercy, I done got called by the wait a minute, fine.
Will Mosley.
Dave Griffin. Thank you for listening.
I said, Will Mosley, there's your song.
Yeah. So there it is.
And that-
me and James are.
And that
We've been collaborating since we was 8.
and that painting is for sale. By
Oh
the
yeah,
way.
all of these are for sale, and we'll put up your. We'll make note of your website, and which is not complete
Well,
yet.
no, but you can go and look at the paintings, and the paintings don't have the correct pixel. We learning this stuff, but eventually they will be, and hopefully one day you'll be able to go pick out a painting and have it put on a T-shirt or a coffee mug.
Well, even if any of you's interested, all you got to do is email us here at Something in the Water Podcast at gmail.com. If you're out there looking, you see something that you really want to get in touch with James about, just email us and we'll put you straight through.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, I know exactly what this one is. This was May the 6th of this year that you painted this one. It was probably right after you watched The Outlaw Josie Wells, because
That's
it says Parley. Everybody remembers that great movie, the scene where he's addressing the Comancheros who have taken the old Indian chief, the granny, and the young girl hostage. And Josie Wheels ain't having none of it. So he meets them, and that's what they see. They see this silhouette in the sunrise ahead of them.
You got to have an edge. That's what the
That's what old Chief Dan Georgie says. Yeah, he talks about Josie always having an edge. The sun's in their eyes, and he's sitting at the top of the desert hill with a white flag, and next thing you know, all the Comancheros are dead.
Well, I'll tell you this about me doing the Western scene. I've done a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And not long ago, I read that Bob Dylan had taken up painting, and that's what he spends his time doing. And it said that he likes to paint old Western scenes, and he'll pause the TV and take a picture of it and paint. And I said, that dirty dog, he's copied me.
That's what you do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. But
This is pretty emotional. Number 458. This one's called I Want My Mama.
that's a very simple thing.
Very simple.
And it took me back to one of my Dog Hill experiences. Mama was a World War II Army nurse, and she was always in surgery, and Lord knows what she saw. And then my dad died when I was 4, and so then I never knew this until very recent, that she was diagnosed with bipolar, and so therefore I can remember. I laugh about it now because it's gone, but I remember standing on one side of the bed, and my little granny couldn't do nothing with me. I was so upset seeing policemen drag her out of the house and put her in a car and take her to a VA hospital. And I was screaming and hollering, and the neighbor trying
horrible.
my neighbor trying to console me. If I knew the cuss words I know now, he'd have got a tongue lesson for sure. But
this is your mind's eye reproduction or your emotional
yeah.
reproduction of that.
And
time.
I did another one the other day because, we didn't have Dr. Phil back then. And I think, a lot of people lost their daddies too. So I did another one, the same image. But
here's number 36. This was early on. This is called River.
and that's my buddy Willie that played with the faux pas. He lives down on the river, and that's looking out his backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
the river is Satilla.
that's it. And I've done I don't know how many pictures of that because they're simple to do. I love them.
I told James a long time ago that I love his work. It's
You used the word primitive.
primitive, rustic, simplistic, folk art is what all of those characteristics are in folk art. Folk art ain't got to be anything other than just daubing your pen. And I'm not, by saying all that, it's not, simplistic is not a bad thing. It's getting the most out of the least. You don't have to put a lot of effort. That goes for anything.
I do. I put a lot of effort in some and hardly none in others. It just, but I love. I grew up with
You
my
can
boy.
see it and with art, it's the further off, the more it comes together. That tree line is perfect.
That's reminiscent of the South.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I took my three boys down there when they was like 11 and 13, and Willie had a neighbor that had a daughter that was about 13 or so, and that night when me and Willie came off the river and went to bed, we left the boys down there in a tent. And that man, the next morning, I saw him. He said, "What time did you get to bed?" I said, "About 11:30, 12." I said, "What time did you get to bed?" He said, "About 4:30 this morning." He had to watch that girl, But that's that same scene.
Yeah. All right, here's one. 126 is called Lint Lucas and Two Bears.
And one of them little bears got red hair, and that's my wife when she was 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And Lint Lucas was a legend at the Okefenokee Swamp Park. He actually was one of the first workers at the swamp park. They went in and cut cypress and made trails for the boat tour.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in on all that first heavy duty working, and he raised animals and took guides out and was in movies. But anyway, so she's got a direct connection with the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
And my connection with the swamp was my Aunt LeMay, Uncle Tom, her husband, was on the first board of directors for the swamp park. But anyway,
Yeah.
we just got a little connection.
Well, here
there.
we are, right here in Waycross is only 8 miles from the entrance to the Okefenokee Swamp Park.
This painting would normally be a couple $100, but I'm gonna have to put $1 million price tag on that one.
It's a good one.
That's my wife,
Mm-hmm.
But we could maybe do a print or something.
Right.
But
Well, now, here we are. Now we're getting to this one was done on May 18th, 24, so it's very recent. It's called Will. Just like the other one was Willie, this one's called Will. And this fella right here is from Hazelhurst, right? Was it Hazelhurst, wasn't it?
absolutely.
And he was one of our guests here on Something in the Water podcast. Came out maybe October, November of last year. And
Pretty recent.
it's fairly recent, yeah. Well, he's a young man, and he's just getting his feet wet in music. And you can listen to that podcast, and you can hear his story. He picked up the guitar about 3 or 4 years ago, and then he just even more recent than that started writing his first songs. And doggone if he wasn't pretty good already, and it just seemed like his star was rising fast. He was playing just a little old club, same as the rest of us around here. Yeah, number 72, episode 72. And you, I guess, heard about him either through me or
American Idol.
and then we knew that he was going to jump on that American Idol show. And damn, he didn't.
I heard him through you.
Go all the way to number 2. And so James repainted him on June the 4th
And that's
with a big old ribbon, winter ribbon on his shirt.
That's actually like an abstract, you know.
Yeah. He's a ginger, red head, red beard kind of a guy. And James shows that in this, and on this one it's called Okmulgee Wheel.
I did that this morning.
Oh my God, June the 4th. That's right.
And
That's the day we're taping this, folks.
And I did it just for this show.
Okay.
And
There he is, Will.
I'm not a portrait
Looks just
artist.
like you, Will.
at a long distance. But
Heck yeah. And congratulations to that boy, too, man. We was all with you on that trip.
yeah, I voted my 10 times.
We was all pulling for you on that one.
The blind.
And, second place is the new first. This one, I don't know what to make of it.
And I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm going to keep everybody in suspense for a minute. See if there's a title for it. 420, number 420 painting.
That's just an oddity.
Okay. Well, it looks like a woman of ill repute.
but she wasn't.
Okay.
She was just feeling no pain. She was like my buddy. I worked at a training center with mental people, adults and children. And the law, you had to have 2 people on a bus. And so she was my first stop, and I'd pick her up. And some morning she'd be feeling no pain. She tore up from the floor up. And I loved her to death. She was my buddy for 7 years that I worked there. And I miss her something awful because we had a time on that bus.
You remember her name?
I do, exactly. Addie Mae Brown.
Addie Mae Brown. How about
And she showed me a picture of her daughter in California, and she was gorgeous. I'm just telling you. But Addie, I'd see her standing there, and she'd be tore up. And one morning I pulled up there, and there was a possum hanging over a pecan tree by his tail right out there in her front yard. And I said, Addie, there's a possum out here. And she said, Remus, get your gun. And she was just hollering, and I seen Remus come out, and I heard, pow. She said, go your ass back up there and get in that bed. You too slow. She was a sport. But I could tell more about it. But,
he missed supper.
yeah.
Okay, now we're getting some bigger paintings there. This is a lighthouse, probably St. Simon's or anywhere.
I think that was
Number 372.
Sapelo Island. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
I did one last week that I had my hand on it, and I just didn't bring it. It was St. Simon's, the Marshes. It was just a different one.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw that picture on PBS and said, I want to see if I can copy it. And Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't.
Ooh, boy, I like this one.
What is this one?
Number 483. This is called Greyhound. Well, it's called 1970 Janice, Waycross, Georgia.
I've got a sister-in-law
And then up here it's Greyhound Bus Station.
that worked at the Greyhound bus station, Betty McLaney. She was a Betty Lucas back then.
Diane's sister.
And she was working up there one day, and I've heard this story for 40 years that Janice came in there with a guitar, and she even remembered what color her suitcase was and a little bag, and Betty said they had played a concert in Jacksonville, and she didn't want to ride the bus. She with the band. She wanted to take the Greyhound, and she said she was just a pleasure to talk to. And
Really?
and Betty can talk the ears off of a billy goat. So I don't know how much Janice talked, but they had
Looks like you got her here with a glass.
yeah
sitting there, too.
Betty got her a milkshake.
Okay.
And I said, what kind was it? And I think she said chocolate. So I think it's a chocolate. I tried to do it right.
Oh, another, this is a memory of mine now. Another Waycross tie-in with Janis Joplin was that Dr. McLaren, our local dermatologist, skin doctor for many years, was practicing out in Texas, where Janis was from, years ago, and Janis was one of his patients out there.
Okay, cool.
She had
yeah.
one of them real acne faces, and he was helping her with that. But there's another one. This is beautiful now. This was called Dinner Pond. Now, that might not mean anything to anybody or somebody out there.
Well, I can tell you exactly what it is. When I worked at the Okefenokee Swamp Park, summer probably 70, come home from college, I was a tour guide, and one of my buddies had a license. You could go all over the swamp. And if you went all the way through the swamp, halfway mark where you would stop and eat dinner was Dinner Pond, and it was a shelter, and that depicts us tying a boat up there or somebody, and when you look out over the water in front of you for miles, you can't, as far as I can see, all you see is lily pads. It's just incredible view. I mean, there's no way I could do it like it should be done.
The swamp itself is unbelievable beauty.
There's another one I did called Log Jam, and in the 50s, two different stories. One said it was a fire, and the other said the government stopped them from logging the cypress. So when they pulled that contract, all them cypress trees that was cut, ready to be hauled to market, they just fell like toothpicks. And they're still there today because cypress is so hard. It doesn't rot hardly. And so therefore, way back, probably in the 50s, 60s, they cut a trail with chainsaws all the way through it because you couldn't get
Around
it miles and miles. It's crazy. I did a couple log jam paintings. But
that swamp is a rare thing now. It's been written about and studied, and movies made, and was inhabited by so many different through the generations and the decades and the years and the millenniums. I mean,
well, let me say this. One of my stories was the summer I worked there, and all my crazy stories and what all we did. But one of your friends named Jim Parker wrote a screenplay off of that. And I'd read the screenplay that he wrote, and Cheech and Chong would blush. And the Georgia Film Festival told me the other day that all I need to do is start a Kickstarter thing and raise some money, and they would entertain doing it, I guess. And I said, well, send me more. And they hadn't sent me anything as of today. I said, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a crazy story. old Jim has an imagination. But
well, it seems to me we're establishing a pattern here. You had this book right here, Cocktails, which you had an editor who gave you your money back and quit.
that's right.
Because of the content. Now you got a song, you got a screenplay that Cheech and Chong would blush at.
Yep.
And here, the next one was done just this May 28th, just about a week ago. It's called Hooty Hoo,
Hoo-hoo.
which is what Randy Thornton used to say on the bus.
Hoo-hoo. I didn't know who started all that, but I know I've hollered it all my life.
Hooty Hoo.
I did one of the Thornton boys the other day from the back of the head. Did you see that one?
No.
And it's from the back of the head, and their heads is kind of already tanned with a yellow
I figured you was going to go there.
mohawk.
Yeah.
They was like five. And when you saw them yellow mohawks, them bleach blonde mohawks, you know it was summertime on Dog Hill.
Them Thorntons were the only boys on Dog Hill to venture into the, what would they use to do that? Wasn't it peroxide? I think it was peroxide.
Yeah.
They'd get into bleaching their hair blonde. They were all as dark brown haired as the rest of us was, but they'd show up for school the next morning. Randy'd have a streak of blonde right through the middle of his hair.
I just saw the mohawks every summer. Yeah, they were cool, but
And you got these owls with the
glaucoma image.
symbols on them.
Right. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
You know, my wife claims that the owl is her spirit animal.
I know nothing.
All right, now this is
This is one of my personal favorites, and it was the General Patton store. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It used to be out on U.S. Highway 1 going to Alma, where you took the forks at the drive-through. You took the left fork, US 1, and he was out on the left. And I met him when I was hauling them children around, me and Addie.
Mm-hmm.
I had a boy lived out in Dixie Union, and we'd stop by there on Friday afternoons and go in there and get a cold drink. And had one other student left, and I'd get a drink for me and Addie and him. And one Friday, I went in and bought us all a little 6-ounce bottle of Coke, and brought him out to the van, but he was standing there with one of his arms around the post, my student. And he was a teenager and strong as a bull, and he just wasn't mentally correct,
Mm-hmm.
But he was strong as a bull. And I said, come on, Keith, let's get back on the bus. I could get fired for stopping.
Oh, okay.
So it was, and when I put my hand on his shoulder, I just felt him tense up, like turning into muscle.
He didn't want to leave that pole.
He didn't want to leave that post for some reason or other. So I coaxed him back over in that van with that Coke. And that's the last time. But that fella, he was a character. He sold insurance. He
Isn't it Walter Agency? Agency.
Yeah, his name was Walter something or other, and his son owns some kind of tool place, lawnmower shop or something there. That building's gone. But during World War II, he met General Patton over in Europe and shook his hand, and he was so impressed. He come back and named his store the General Patton Store. And
Is he a soldier?
yeah, he was and quite a character. He's always telling stories. But anyway,
Southeast Georgia is rich with stories.
that's
And here's another picture of Will Mosley.
and it's kind of an abstract, you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just grabbed him because he's hot.
He is hot. Well, you gotta, and you this proves the versatility of your artwork too. Can we go real quick to what is it?
Blind cock art.
Yeah, you can view some there, right? You can still view some on there, right?
Yeah, Justin, can you do it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can view
I want to
them all.
look at some of those early glaucoma. Show the folks at home some of those glaucoma pictures because they are geometrical, they're colorful, there they are. Look at this.
That's the night flashes, and
I don't care what you say. It is what it is to you. That's the glaucoma flashes that you see. But if you had anybody from the rich people on Hilton Head all the way down, if you had something like that hanging over your couch in the living room, you'd be.
hey, look here, I got some 30 by 40. I've got some big ones. I didn't just stay with just the little ones.
This is modern art, modern folk art, or op art, or whatever they call it. I'm telling you, this you see stuff like this all the time in people's houses or apartments where they're just trying to get a little look,
Well, I appreciate
Y'all are missing it, folks.
and some of my other stuff gets mixed in here, but mainly that's taken from that, and then I just tried to do some different things. And
Well, that's what art is. What it means something to the artist, but it don't have to mean the same thing to anybody else.
I was like a meteorologist. I was practicing my craft, and it don't always rain on the days they say it does.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. It's just
but
we need to get this into the right hands.
Well,
Man, if somebody see our podcast from California,
well, look here. Here's
New York City.
Here's what I tell them. I sell every one of them. They could start a whole
Now
museum.
this is what I call it, folk art.
I can see the one in the middle there.
Okay, the very first row there, the man leaning up with the dog.
Yep,
That one.
that's taken from
Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper movie, Sergeant York.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of that, and I sent it to the Georgia Artists with Disabilities contest a year ago, and it won like some award and like honorable mention or something. And the lady, she said, send me that one, and I sent it to her, and she said, no, you sent me the wrong one. And I said, no. She said, I wanted the one that says thinking. And I said, that's the one I call thinking. And she had mixed it up with another painting. She made the mistake.
Yeah.
But she said, why did you call it thinking? I said, because I couldn't spell contemplating. we had a good laugh about that. But it's on tour going around the state right now, different cities. And for some reason, it was supposed to come to Waycross, but Waycross, the Okefenokee Heritage Center,
I remember you telling me about that.
Some kind of conflict, and they couldn't do it. But anyway, I could talk about each and every one of these. But
well, like you was talking about earlier, there's Dinner Pond. Your love of westerns, movies particularly.
I got a bunch of them.
are showcased in these in different places too. Look at there, Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah. Uh, I got a good friend I wrote about in Cocktails. Every time he'd see my son Jacob, he'd start singing, Jacob's Ladder to the
I'm
sky.
climbing Jacob. Well, that's the heaven right there.
Yeah. But
Okay, start scrolling a little quicker now,
if,
and
if
I'm gonna stop you on. And James, you do the same.
I can't see him.
Oh, okay.
So,
See
there's a
that old
record.
45s
Yeah,
right there.
I
Now
should-
this is the ones we were talking about. Listen to on James's little back porch. That's Dandelion by the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
And the next one is Beatles, I believe. Day Tripper.
Day Tripper.
Heck yeah.
I was telling Justin before we got on the air that I took a cereal bowl and I put it the same size as a record. I found one, and then I found another bowl cup the same size as the center, and then I found one
The label.
the label, and there I went.
There it goes. All right.
They were fun to do.
Yeah. There you go. Now, if you'll open that one up and see this.
Oh, who was that scoundrel?
He saw my book. And if I don't know if that ain't a better segue, then I'm gonna now, folks. You can leave that. No, did I send you the stuff for this? We're gonna do a quick tale of the week, but hold that website because I think I wanna finish up on that. Folks, it's time for another tale of the week from Dog Hill to Tripoli and back. Musical memories and life journeys. Okay, we already seen that one dog hiller can write a book. And let's set that up just a little bit. After James had such success, we've stayed in contact throughout our lives. And one thing that James is capable of is dreaming big.
Aggravating somebody.
Thinking about the next possible gold strike. And we've all had it in us since the beginning. We want to do well. We've always wanted to do well. But we're not going to sacrifice our sleep for it.
Speak for yourself.
And also, what another trademark of our Dog Hill gang or our little group of folks that grew up together is we were very loving and always. We might not always done the right thing, but we always realized the value of good over bad. And we've been we've gone through our lives trying to do good. And
Amen, brother.
and James wrote me and says, "You need." He sent me this message on Facebook in about 2015. He says, "You need to be blogging," and I said, "I ain't got time for that." And but he put it in my mind, and that's what he's good at doing. He'll put an idea, a little bug in your ear, and he'll wait on that bug to worm itself to the inside core of your brain where it starts making sense. And after a few weeks, I said, you know what? He's right. I got something to say, and I'm going to say it. So he inspired me to start blogging in 2015, and I did a blog a week for 2.5 years. And out of that blog, and because of his introduction to the publishing company and Mike Orenduff and everything, he said, why don't you send some blogs to Mike Orenduff, and introduced us without even seeing each other. emailed Mike Orenduff some blogs, and he said, here's a publishing contract. So next thing you know, because of James, I ended up blogging and writing and ended up with a book myself.
And
So,
a much better writer than James Cocke. I'm just telling you.
so
I don't know the difference between a comma and a colon.
all us boys grew up together, loving one another and living life and enjoying each other's company and competing with one another and learning together. And we ended up satisfying some of our own dreams as it went by.
And it ain't over.
And it ain't done yet. So my tale of the week starts with this 3-word sentence. I love sports. I grew up on Dog Hill, otherwise known as Mount Pleasant Road in Waycross, where on any given Saturday, after the Linus the Lion-Hearted cartoon show was over, me, my brother Gary, next door neighbors James Cocke, Greg Griffin, Ray Heron, and Johnny Bennett, in some form or fashion, would take to the pasture in James's backyard for a game of football or baseball. During basketball season, we simply nailed a plywood backboard to the pine tree behind James's backyard shelter, where about 5 or 6 feet of concrete floor upon which we would dribble spilled down into the hard ground. We were a competitive bunch. James made sure of that. He hated to lose and would do anything just shy of outright cheating.
Wait a minute, Vine. Don't get on
To win the game. Thus earning him the nickname Sharky. All right. James and his mama Edie, a former nurse during World War II, moved away from Dog Hill to Andalusia, Alabama in late 1967. Upon his return in the summer of 1968, he had picked up a new sport that we were all too happy to learn, the gentleman's game of tennis. So we descended upon the antique local courts in Monroe Park, with James teaching us the new language: love, let, add in, add out, double fault, ace, game, set, match. I bought a handsome McGregor wooden racket and a can of Wilson tennis balls and spent hours upon hours volleying the ball off the wall of our carport, probably driving Mama to the threshold of dementia, and every now and then busting the light bulb next to the door leading into the house. I was a sophomore at Ware County High in 68, 69 when the school scheduled tryouts for the first tennis team in their 10-year history. Coached by local sports Hall of Famer Genevieve Pope, I made the cut, along with Bruce Surrency, Al Coughlin, Phil Southern, and Janelle Logan, to name a few. We were a ragtag bunch, but we gave it our all despite the fact that we had no high school courts to practice on, forcing us to drive over to an old dilapidated court situated right beside a sewer canal near the Waycross Rec Center. Many a ball was hit into that canal, never to be retrieved again. Newspaper clippings showed us traveling and losing quite often that first season to out-of-town matches against Wayne County Yellow Jackets, Coffee County Trojans, Charlton County Indians, and crosstown rival Waycross Bulldogs, home of tennis greats John and Sam Stovall. James Sharky Cocke spent his junior year at Waycross High, but in the fall of 1969, he returned to Ware County, joining the Gator tennis team in its second season. Like Glenn Campbell sang, he was a lineman for the county as well, number 74, weighing in at a hefty 185 pounds, playing at the tackle position on the Gator football team. On the tennis course, opponents tended to underestimate their weighty adversary. When the game was over, finding themselves on the losing end, I often overheard them mutter, "He sure is fast to be such a big boy." His speed belied his size, that's for sure, but it was his dog-heel tenacity and competitiveness that left those challengers shaking their collective heads. I played drums in the Golden Gator Marching Band all 4 years of high school, holding down first chair snare drum, earning the Governor's Honors Award, and performing the All-State Band at Epworth by the Sea on St. Simon's. But in my closet, there hangs a stiff leathered coat with a big gold W bearing 2 tennis rackets in the shape of an X stitched on the left side. Venturing out in life as a working musician, my days in the high school band served me well. But it was my serve, thanks to the tennis tutelage of James Sharkey Cocke, that earned me a letterman's jacket that a boy could be proud of.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, so there it was. We played them all, from the pasture to the Monroe Park and to high school legends.
When
And
I,
only James went further than that now with tennis.
when I played in Waycross, I taught Larry Kovac how to play the backhand side with the two-handed backhand,
Yeah.
and we won many a tournament over here, and for years and years. But then I moved to Valdosta. Lo and behold, I hit it up with the best tennis player over there, a fellow named Bill Anderson. They named the tennis courts Harry B. Anderson tennis courts after his dad. And so we hit it off, and he and I became doubles partners, and we won. I can't tell you how many city tournaments, and then the regionals, and then the states, and then we go on to different cities and represent Georgia. And
God knows.
I always said we could beat anybody as long as I had Bill. And what's crazy, Bill was 6'4" and a slender fella, but he was muscular and quick. And the deal with Bill was he's smooth. He's just a natural tennis player. And the other teams, you would think they would hit it to me every time, but they wouldn't. They would hit it to Bill over and over, try to beat him, and they couldn't. And
So why you reckon that was?
I don't know, it's just competitiveness in them.
Okay.
And then maybe late in the match, they might hit one to me, and I'd hit a winner. I'd be ready. I
They
was
learned that right quick.
so, but me and Bill, we had a long career playing tennis, and I'll tell you this: when I first started playing tennis, a can of tennis balls was about $2 50-something years ago, and I Googled the other day, a can of tennis ball is 2 something now. So
Yeah, that's gone up about as much as a musician's wages.
I'm sorry to say, but I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Well, there can't be much involved in, footballs are made out of pig skin, baseballs are made out of horsehide or whatever. Mm-hmm. And tennis balls are made out of hog, what? No.
The thing about tennis balls, I guess they make them cheap so people will go out there and play and buy rackets, and just, I don't know.
Boy, I love the smell of them, that can. Old fuzz. And when one has lost its fuzz, it ain't much good. Well, real quick, I wanted to stroll through a few more of those right there.
There's only about 500 or 600 more.
Let's see. I wanted to see those. There's some repeats.
I'll have to get on to Judy Griffin about that.
Yes, sir. There's some fishermen, another hobby. And there's some three-peats.
I don't understand this.
Yeah, let's end on this one. Okay, now James called me one time and he said,
Okay.
I want to do Graham Parsons guitar pool, which me and my wife started in our backyard in 1998, and it's grown into an annual event. Now, coming up this year, it's 27th year. But I thought, okay, how about doing this? Here's what the stage looked like. Sent him a rough drawing of the stage, and he assimilated that into his artwork. And we've got a big picture of Graham hanging as the backdrop. I said, why don't you do 3 different hats, artist, and which were these were 3 artists that we've had in the past on there, and from left to right we had Charlie Leuven, and I believe it was 2009, and Leon Russell. That same year we had Leon Russell on a Friday night, Charlie Leuven on a Saturday night. And right there in the middle was Dr. Ralph Stanley, the bluegrass legend. We had him one year, about 2011, I believe it was. And I love that. There's Leon's top hat, Ralph Stanley's little side Stetson, and Charlie Leuven's cowboy hat.
That was so difficult to do. Mm-hmm. That was difficult.
And up top, it's got gone but not forgotten. That applies to all 3 of them, all 4 of them gentlemen, because they all are gone. But I want to say this real quick. James, I've already said how he's always the idea man, coming up with new ideas. And here's one. I'm glad we're ending on this because I've yet to bring it up to Justin.
And I'd like to say one other thing,
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Pull that mic to you a little bit. There you go. Go ahead.
Go ahead with yours, and then I'll finish it up.
All right. James has come to me at least 3 months ago or so and said, you need to put out a documentary of the evolution of the guitar pool. I said, well, you know what? Justin has some interviews of people who performed and worked at the guitar pool through the years, but they're more or less talking about less about Graham Parsons and talking about the local Waycross scene. But with that in mind, those were so good, and they'll never serve any purpose now. With that in mind, we need to run it by. I hadn't run it by you yet, so now we're running it by you. So if we could put together a visual documentary based on, interviews and footage, some footage I have from way back, from the very one in 1998.
There you go.
VHS footage that could be transcribed, I'm sure. And as much video and audio footage combined with some new, just local Waycross camera footage, and along with the other festive video, what's their name? Festive, that came out and did that great 30-minute blurb 30-second blurb for the Marty Stewart Festival. Shot it with a drone and everything. That footage of Festivus.
I'm thinking you got hundreds of hours, and you need to edit it down to about 2 hours.
Well, I don't think we have that much video, though. I mean, we got a lot of still photography, and we've got amateur people's phone videos.
There you go.
Through the years.
It's just a documentary.
That could be doctored a little bit, but if we started gathering interviews with the artists who have been coming to these guitar pools through the years, like Crabgrass Cowboys, and do them in the same vein that you did the interviews for the Something in the Water.
A blind man can see. Netflix would love to have that. That's just all I can tell you. I could do it if I could mix that stuff together, and I know Justin can.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Anyhow, that's something that we can think about.
Justin, somewhere up there, I saw a picture of my mama, and it said she was in a nurse's uniform, and
The tale of the week.
and it was a section that I called the bipolar section.
Oh, this is not it. The tale of the week, I had a picture of
Okay.
her. A real picture of her.
I got you.
Now, you're saying that within...
That same picture is up there, and it's abstract stuff.
I think that's below, because all the thing we've been through is folk art and
Seen it
something
since
else.
I've been scrolling here.
Well, maybe I saw what Dave was saying.
Go down a little further and see if there's some other sections real quick. Here, what's that? Folk Art Gallery 2. Okay,
Yeah,
keep
so
running.
see, there's so much more.
Keep rolling down and see if he's got a, what'd you call it?
It's a bipolar section. You'll see
Bipolar section.
it. You will
Oh,
definitely.
it's got a heading.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they're galleries.
Folk Art 3. There's your Cowboys. Yeah. There it is.
All right. Those I painted in honor of my mom, who really gave her life to the service, But bottom line is that I saw what depression will do and all that. And these paintings here, if you'll just scroll through some of them, you'll see you get the gist. It's a little darker. That one in the middle there, and that one on the right is just going down, and that one on the very left is up and down. It's just
Darker.
It's a terrible. And then we get
That's
into
awesome, man. There's your picture of your mama right there.
that's sketches that I did. This is just on paper, and there's no need to go any further. I mean, somebody wants to go to the website, they welcome. We're trying to do better with our pixel, but I love doing them for her, and I could do them. I could sit there and do them all day long. And they're easy and they from the heart. But anyway.
Well, folks, we've been visiting with my old friend and neighbor forever. And I figure those of y'all who've never met him or listened to him before, you're probably in love with him as much as I am now after hearing him. Because he's a guiding light and a great spirit.
It's kind of like the way I feel about you, the greatest songwriter and the greatest singer of all time.
Well, I tell you what, if we was each other's fan club presidents,
it'd be an easy job.
Well, we're glad to have you back, buddy. And what are you going? Or is painting a thing that you're going to just leave behind, or are you still going to keep painting?
I'm gonna keep painting. It gives me something to do and think about.
Well, it's got to be fun.
It is. It's frustrating a lot of times when I'm doing intricate work, my sketches and stuff. But it's just something I love, and I wish I could promote you to Will Mosley more.
Well,
But I'm on his Facebook every day that I have an opportunity aggravating him.
Well, Will's at the point now after coming in second in American Idol where right now and in the near future he's going to be busier than a one-legged tap dancer.
What about his guitar buddy? Are you a Facebook?
Benji?
Are you a Facebook friend with him?
Oh yeah.
You need to hit him up and say, "Look."
Well, Benji's probably in the same boat
Well, you don't know.
that we are.
Hey.
It's like, what's next, boss?
Don't assume nothing.
That's right.
Jump out there, and all he can tell you is no.
That's right.
Next thing you know,
Will, I'm sure he's God Almighty. He's still moving in Mach 3 speed right now with all that's happened to him just recently.
you never know. The Cheyenne will be on the TV. one of Dave's many songs.
Hey, I won't tell you the story behind writing that one.
But it's all good. It's all
It is.
good.
It's all good, you know. And folks, y'all are all good. And just simply by virtue of you have watching this far in the video, in the podcast, we are listening this far. If you've heard me say y'all are all good, write us an email and say, I heard you say we was all good. That way we'll know that somebody's watching past 5 seconds.
It's all,
Or you can comment down below. Yeah,
it's all good.
It's all good. And the first people that we hear say in a comment or an email that it's all good, we'll get your name and address. Of course, we'll have your name. We'll get your mailing address, and we'll send you a free. We'll send you a free Uncle Dave CD or sticker or Pine Box Dwellers, some kind of something or other freebie. We still got shirts. Just let us know that you say, just come down there and comment, say it's all good. Because that's what Edie, James's mama, used to say all the time.
It's all good. And if you want to end this thing by singing Happy Trails, we'll go.
Well, we do that other than the fact that now we're monetized and they won't let nothing slip by. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Enough of that.
I'm not going to sing.
Okay, James, you take the next line.
Love y'all.
Peace, y'all.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate.